Soulmates. Thanks so much for joining us as we move through this Friday, another weekend on tap. We're excited about that. We also have plenty to discuss. I want to welcome you to FOXSOUL's Black Report. I'm Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Nicolai Corte. We are honored to sit behind this desk each day to take you on a journey across Black America and the stories that impact our people.
Our news, our views, and our voice. So let's get into our top conversation today. A Lubbock, Texas, yes, that's a real place, jury has sentenced 36-year-old Larry Pearson to 70 years in prison after he was found guilty of 2 counts of harassing public servants by spitting at police officers. Now, the prosecutor argued that Pearson's criminal history, which includes aggravated robbery and domestic violence, warranted a lengthy sentence to send a message to society. Pearson was arrested for domestic violence. That was back in May of 22. And during his arrest, he kicked doors and spat at officers. Now, despite the defense's argument that it was a minor offense, the jury severely sentenced Pearson due to his criminal history.
Now, Courtney, at first when I read this story, I thought, wow, 70 years for that? But then as I kept reading,
digging a little deep.
I saw that he had a history of domestic violence. And because of that, the minimum would have been 25 years.
Right.
And so you quickly see how he got up to 70 years based upon his conduct. And, just what a shame. I mean, it's an example of how sometimes, your bad choices after bad choices, really lead you to a situation like this.
Yeah, and nowadays, with all that is going on, we're somewhat post-COVID and, all of these the diseases and things of that nature that we're dealing with. You spitting on somebody will get you in trouble. That is considered like, I have it here, battery charge or even criminal assault. So you might want to think twice. And even if you involuntarily spit on someone, you can be brought up for some sort of, charges in regards to just it landing on somebody. So, this was a serious charge that unfortunately kind of sealed the deal for him and his fate. So,
well, terrible. Well, Minneapolis will pay $8.9 million to settle lawsuits from John Pope Jr. and Zoya Code. They claim that Derek Chauvin used excessive force and racism while arresting them in 2017, the same technique he used to murder George Floyd. Pope will receive $7.5 million and Code will receive $1.375 million. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey apologized to all of Chauvin's victims, stating that if police supervisors had done their job, George Floyd will still be alive. Both Pope and Code named Chauvin and other officers in their lawsuit and highlighted the city's knowledge of Chauvin's misconduct. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara also criticized the department's failure to address Chauvin's behavior.
All right, so let's go to Indianapolis, where a couple of police officers there, Adam Ahmad and Steven Sanchez, have been indicted by a grand jury for their alleged roles in the death of a 39-year-old black man by the name of Herman Whitfield III, who died in custody. This was back in 2022. Whitfield died after being tasered and restrained during a medical health episode. The officers remain on paid administrative duty, while Whitfield's family has now started suing the city and 6 other officers for excessive force. Officers claim they attempted to negotiate with Whitfield before he approached them. And another situation, Nicolai, where we have to really continue to wait for the dust to settle and the facts to come out. But, from reading a little further into it, it does appear, unfortunately, to begin again to sound more like excessive force.
Yeah, and it's also another example of why officers should not be first responders when it comes to people having severe mental health events. He was only 39 years old when this happened, and according to the Indianapolis Star, he was handcuffed, naked, and face down on the ground, right? And so where is that in the training for police officers in terms of how to treat somebody who's having a severe mental health crisis? And so this is not just a story happening in Indianapolis, this is a story happening across the country where people are calling for police to not be the first responders when it comes to people facing severe mental health challenges.
Sure.
Deja Taylor, the mother of a 6-year-old boy who shot an elementary school teacher in Newport News in January, was indicted by a Virginia grand jury for felony child neglect and a firearms charge. The teacher, Abigail Warner, was wounded by the first grade student in her classroom at Richneck Elementary School after school officials received warnings that the boy had a gun. The indictments are the latest example of prosecutors charging parents of children who commit gun crimes or mass shootings. Zawarner filed a $40 million lawsuit against school administrators last week, alleging that they ignored warnings from staff and pupils that the boy had a gun.
Yeah, so this isn't, something that has gone, unknown, if you will. There was an incident here, school shooting here in the Detroit area in Oxford, Michigan, to be exact. And those parents are being charged as well with, being negligent, allowing for their son to have access to guns, and just real bad parenting. So this is something that I don't want to say is trending, but, when you have young people who obviously have not been steered in the right direction or in a wrong direction. What is a first grader like? 6 or 7 years old? Someone has to be held accountable, and so in this case, it is going to be this parent.
Yeah, and it went to a grand jury, right? And the grand jury deliberated. They looked at the evidence, and this is what they came up with. But my goodness, the fact that it was a loaded gun, a loaded gun in the house that a 6-year-old got a hold of, transported that from home to school, and shoots his teacher. It is a miracle, that more folks were not armed, and that his teacher lived.
Yeah, and there was a lot of conversation about this not being this child's first offense, with concern with him having a weapon or a weapon being talked about in his possession. So it's just an unfortunate set of circumstances, and I feel that these charges might be justified.
Yeah, and it's another example of this, this epidemic of gun violence.
That's right. That's right.
This is just another form that it's taken.
Let's go to Louisiana, where the Attorney General Jeff Landry, a Republican gubernatorial candidate, is pushing a bill to make certain confidential juvenile court records public in 3 predominantly black parishes. The proposed legislation has faced opposition from advocates for incarcerated youth who argue that it is racist and would have harmful generational effects on juvenile delinquents. They fear that making these records public would defeat the purpose of rehabilitation into the community and put opportunities for education, employment, and housing at risk. The bill would also make adult criminal court records and some juvenile court proceedings public and online.
Football trainer Mark Taylor from Georgia is facing backlash for making racist remarks about Atlanta, referring to it as a N-word town, and he used the hard R amongst other racist things. Take a look.
All that's up here. That's all that's up here, man. And stuff is just crap. Yeah. Yeah, you and boy need to come up here and go hunting. Yeah. And stuff, man. Ain't none here, dog. Ain't nothing but blacks up here. That's all it is. Atlanta's done gone down, man. Just gone. Ro, look at this trying to pull out in front of me right here. Look at this trying to pull out in front of me right here. Hey, did you see that tree right there? Yeah. Did you see that tree right there? Ro will hang you from that tree. Got the Glock by the bed. Yeah, here we go. Room service. Y'all need y'all to bring me some chicken wings, 2 hoes, a red bone and a white girl.
Taylor is the founder of the sports training program Speed Edge Sports in Macon, Georgia, and regularly shares photos and videos of himself training young black students, if you can believe that, young black student athletes on social media, that is. Many of his students have gone on to play Division I football and beyond. I am shaking my head, Courtney. This is infuriating. This is just some of what he said. This is just some of what he said.
And it's only really the tip of the iceberg. I was listening in to a parent who complained some time ago about this particular coach, who's also a teacher, I do believe. And in the classroom, he referred to her daughter as a red bone. She went up to the school, demanded that he come out of class, meet her in the principal's office, and she, had a few choice words and schooled him on what red bone meant, and he did apologize. And then for, some fast forward to this occasion where he's, clearly using this derogatory term, knowing, know, what it means and knowing why he used it is just a slap in the face to the parents who've been complaining, and hopefully the parents who are still sending their children to utilize his services. Hopefully, you know, they nick that in the bud and find other avenues to train their young people and really investigate as to who these coaches and what they're all about. And what they stand for.
And part of what is so insidious about this,
coaching is crucial.
You know, this guy's coaching black folks. His clients are mostly black folks who are going on to play Division I ball, and so it's okay, you know, for him to make a buck off of us. You know, it's okay to coach us. It's okay when he's engaging with us for sports or entertainment, but it's not okay to give us our dignity. It's not okay to respect. It's not okay to respect us. I mean, you know, this is really disturbing. This is a part of how racism works.
And if you will be this way, how stupid are you to make a video for us to really see what you're really all about? You would think he'd continue to mask and play the game, you know, to continue with his career. But how stupid were you to think that this wouldn't get out and that people wouldn't see the real you? I mean, we live and die, unfortunately, by social media. And for you to put this out there and not think it would have repercussions, or maybe he was just fed up and wanted to put out who he really was,
well,
you know?
Well, I hope that this story, sharing this story with our soulmates, I hope it unmasks who he really is. It unmasks his heart. And I hope all of the black, you know, athletes, student athletes that have been frequenting his business, I hope that they're watching this, and everybody gets to decide how they're going to govern themselves and how we're going to respond.
Agreed. All right, a Haitian-American couple from South Florida, you may remember this story. They were kidnapped and held hostage in Haiti for nearly a month. They have now been released. This is according to relatives. Jean Dickens and Abigail Toussaint were kidnapped in March in Port-au-Prince while en route to visit a relative. Reports say the kidnappers demanded a ransom of $200,000 per person, with an initial payment of $6,000 that family members had already made. Now, it is unclear whether any further payment was made in regards to their release. Kidnappings have spiked 173% in Haiti just this year alone. That's according to the Port-au-Prince-based Center for Analysis and Research in Human Rights.
Conservative commentator Candace Owens is facing backlash after tweeting that women who call singer Lizzo beautiful are insane. Owens shared a post featuring a nude photo of Lizzo that questioned why obesity was being normalized, and captioned her tweet about women being manipulated through their support of trans men and fat acceptance. This prompted fans to rush to Lizzo's defense, with many calling Owens out for suggesting obese people can't be beautiful and pushing her narrative on others. Despite Owens' criticism, Lizzo has dedicated her career and platform to promoting empowerment and inspiring women to accept and love their bodies. There she goes.
We're really about to talk about Candace.
There she goes again.
Are we really about to talk about Candace?
I mean, does she just wake up on the wrong side of the bed every single day?
I don't know. Or is this just her way to continue to stay relevant? You know, I'm not so sure. Listen, we come in all shapes and sizes, and being, you know, a sister who's been more on the heavier, fluffier side than any other side, you know, there are times when, you know, it has been unhealthy. And I've had to say, you know what, Courtney, let's tighten up here. And there are times with my little pandemic weight where I might be fluffier, but I just have my physical. I am very healthy and good to go. So, you know, everybody is different. Everybody's body is different. And for Candace here to just, you know, kind of lay that on top of obesity or people who might be a little bigger than the norm. And we all know that we have never fit into the norm. Never will I be 100 and I think it's 25 pounds according to my height, which is what I'm supposed to be. But then again, by whose standards?
Well, and speaking of whose standards, I mean, it seems to me that Candace Owens is subscribing to a very Eurocentric standard of beauty, right?
Yeah, that's my whole point.
And so, you know, I think she may have a very distorted view of, you know, again, the variety that exists, how you can be, healthy in mind, body, and spirit.
That's right.
And not subscribe to a Eurocentric standard of beauty. And so, hopefully Candace gets a new bed.
She don't know the magic of them thighs.
Hopefully she
how
gets
they save lives, the thick ones.
That's right. Hopefully she gets a new bed, because she has a tendency to wake up on the wrong side of the bed and be on the wrong side
Candace.
of a lot of issues.
Oh, Candace.
Just saying.
All right, coming up, a black mother is saying enough is enough, and she's filing a lawsuit against her child's school.
That's right. We'll tell you the reason behind the suit when we return. You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report. Welcome back to Fox Soul's Black Report. Well, this week, the Supreme Court refused to stop a settlement that would erase more than $6 billion in student loan debt.
So this is separate from the pending ruling from the Supreme Court on President Biden's plan to cancel $430 billion in loan debt. The 151 schools included in this current ruling are accused of misleading students about the level of the school's academics and promises regarding possible job prospects.
That's right. The Education Department will now automatically cancel the debt of nearly 200,000 borrowers who attended 151 schools.
There is new research from the Pew Center revealing more black women avoid conversations about pay raises compared to their male co-workers. The report details that 42% of women were more likely to say they were uncomfortable for asking for higher wages. The center also found that these women who did not ask for higher pay were only given the company's initial offer. The Pew Research Center also says that pay gaps widen for black women as they advance in their careers.
Black women looking to have children via a sperm donor are sharing their struggles, saying it's hard to find compatibility. Fox News' Alan Lewis details their story. Take a look.
Divorced, so I didn't have children in my marriage, but I didn't want to give up on having family. Why should I?
And faced with those odds, Tracy Holland never gave up her desire to become a mother. She eventually decided to reach out to New Hope Fertility Clinic and a cryobank to find a black sperm donor to give her the family she longed for.
African American, of course, I want to keep with my heritage. I'm proud of who I am. And not even that, I want to keep within the scope of what my family looks like.
But Tracy was in for an awakening. The availability of black sperm was slim to nil.
I had 4 options. That's not saying much in a 10-year span.
It's just hard to get. They just aren't out there giving sperm.
Dr. Michael Thomas is president of the American Society for Reproductive Medicine. Analysis published by the Washington Post in October of 2022 found that black men account for less than 2% of sperm donors at cryobanks nationwide. Research on the shortage found a common denominator to be generational medicinal mistrust within the black community, particularly among men.
The thought process is that African Americans don't want to go to the doctor, don't want to participate in trials, don't want to donate anything unless they absolutely have to, unless there's a family member involved. I think it just goes to that. And that's why you see the numbers so low for African American sperm donors, even though there's a great need.
Thomas's team at ASRM has created a task force to recruit African American men to become sperm donors.
Because what happens is that people who do want African American sperm may have to settle for dark complected a person of another race, when that's not what they had thought about when they tried to put together their image of what their family should look like.
And cryobanks across the country are also stepping up outreach efforts to attract donors of color. Scott Brown is Vice President of Strategic Alliances for California Cryobank, one of the leading sperm banks in the world.
We've reached out to fraternities to have their members potentially apply and join our program. We've planted ourselves in cities that have higher populations of African Americans.
But Brown admits one of the toughest tasks for any sperm bank is being asked if there's any black sperm and having to say no.
We have international demand around the world because most sperm banks around the world have no African American donors. And so we try not to turn people away. We certainly have a couple of donors, and we always have more donors becoming available, but we certainly are not meeting the demand either domestically or worldwide.
As for Tracy, her 10-year journey to have the family that she wanted came to fruition last July when she delivered a healthy and beautiful 6-pound little girl. When the time is right, she'll explain to her daughter how she came to be. But for now, Tracy is just looking forward to May and Mother's Day, which will finally be a dream come true.
Kind of have a party, a big dinner. This time I'll be able to sit at the table, and instead of me treating my sister, treating my mother to dinner, now someone gets to treat me.
Antoine Lewis, Fox News.
All right, let's go to New York now, where a black mother is filing a discrimination claim against her child's white teacher for comments regarding her hair. Now, according to the complaint, the 17-year-old attending a Long Island area high school claims a comment was made about her hair from the teacher, saying that the black teen's hair is, quote, ethnic compared to hers, which was described as, quote, American and normal. Now, the comments were made during a lesson about hair texture in cosmetology class. This was back in the fall of 2022. The school district has since released a statement saying they were never formally made aware of the complaint, but heard about it through media inquiries and is now reviewing this alleged claim.
Now, Courtney, this is really one of the first tests of the Crown Act. Remember, the Crown Act has been passing state by state across the country, and it essentially bans discrimination based upon hair texture, all of that. And so that's the basis by which this lawsuit's being filed.
Yeah, it really feeds into this very wrong, sick, sad narrative that there happens to be something wrong with our hair because it's curly or it's coarse. Well, actually, that's a sign of it being very strong and being able to endure. And it's also a sign from, where we come from in the motherland and the heat and the atmosphere and how strong, our hair had to be and how dark our skin needed to be just to, survive in that environment. And so just how things are just so misconstrued nowadays and how everything has become so American pie, and that you don't delve, and this is an educator, that you're not delving deep enough to understand why our hair is the way it is, why our skin is the way it is, and just to assign it to this false American narrative is just what is disturbing to me.
Yeah, and to make this kid feel less than.
Right.
I mean, the kid was in class and
the texture of her hair.
And the teacher is talking about, normal hair, referring to her own, versus hair that's, not normal, referring to, the hair texture of the kid. We don't want to send our kids to school, to feel bad about themselves. We want people to learn. We want people to ask questions. We want people to apply critical thinking. But we don't want folks to go to school and be made to feel less than.
But I had to catch myself, being of a certain generation, 50 plus, for a very long time, there were only white dolls that had that type of hair. And so, it's not too far-fetched for one to think that might be better or the only way your hair, could or should be or is acceptable. So, it's taken a lot to unpack that and realize that, what I come with is good.
That's right, and it looks
enough,
good. And it looks good, and you are
even
enough.
when I go pay for it.
Up next, TD Jakes is doing his part to usher in a new generation of business owners.
All right, Bishop. See what he is doing to increase black entrepreneurs. That story and more when we return. You are watching Fox Soul's Black Report.
I like that, Jack.
I like that too.
All right, soulmates, welcome back to Fox Soul's Black Report. The social impact holding company, TD Jakes Enterprises, has announced its launch of a national initiative. It's called the Good Soil Movement.
Now, the initiative will serve as a platform and clearinghouse for business leaders, influencers, and would-be entrepreneurs to inspire and proliferate opportunities for black and small businesses in diverse communities. Now, on May 3rd in Orlando, a Good Soil event is going to be held to support business owners, along with year-round scheduled events, live and virtual, to provide tools, resources, and also thought to leaders.
That's right. Within the next decade, Good Soil seeks to launch and nurture 1 million diverse entrepreneurs. Music to our ears. We love celebrating our Black small businesses. We love celebrating our Black entrepreneurs, and clearly so does Bishop T.D. Jakes. What I love so much about this summit is that they say it's about taking action to impact, growing, and scaling minority-owned businesses. And we talk a lot about, okay, guys, we need to, make sure you have your side business, your side hustle, right? But this is about going beyond having a side hustle and a side business and giving people the tools to be able to scale. And look at what Bishop T.D. Jakes has done, with his ministry. I mean, it's now, T.D. Jakes Enterprises. I mean, he has his hand in so many different things. And so if the bishop can do it, and then any of us can do it.
Yeah, well, listen, Bishop is always going to be bishoping. And what I love about the ministry, it stretches far beyond the walls of the church. I've been following them for a while, and I love the messages. But in regards to the activities outside of the church, law withstanding, a track record of interest in business, creating generational wealth. You'll often hear him talk about, helping those who have just been released from prison and are on a new path, and, initiating them back into society and the tools that they need. So this is indicative to what the message and the movement there at the Potter's House has always been. So I'm sure this isn't, the last of what you're going to hear coming from out of the bishop's pulpit. He is just one of those ones who is just down for that type of a cause, as he is living proof of it.
Yeah, and speaking of living proof, I mean, he comes from really humble beginnings. If you ever have a chance to check out the story of Bishop T.D. Jakes and his wife. When you consider that and what they're doing.
First Lady Sarita.
It's amazing work.
Yeah. All right, an 80-year-old segregation wall is finally coming down. This is in Baltimore. So white Baltimore residents banded together, this was back in the late 1930s, to erect the wall in response to the growing number of Black people in the area attending HBCU Morgan State. Now, on Tuesday, University President David Wilson, school officials, and residents watched as a segregation barrier came down. 80 years.
I mean, this is so
80 years.
This is important stuff. This is an important history lesson. This is why it's important for us to know our history, because Baltimore was one of the leading cities to enact these covenants that restricted where Black people could live, right? And that wasn't that long ago. I mean, we're talking about, our grandparents' generation. We are not that far removed. And so, what an important symbolic act to knock down that wall. It was important when we knocked down that Berlin Wall. It's just as important to knock down that wall here at home.
Yeah, and that's why, the conversation, continues to happen as far as, racism and the effects of racism and our civil rights and protecting that. It's because these events are not that long ago. I mean, we could go back again to our parents, even some of us, are coming on the tail end. I mean, I'm not, I'm Generation X, which is, going to be right after the baby boomers. And so, of course, with civil rights movement folks being my parents, if you will, you feel the effects. And that's not that far back to go one generation back. And these are the type of things that were happening. And so that is why, the conversation, about our civil rights and pressing through is still on the docket. It's because it's still happening, and it hasn't. What has happened didn't happen that long ago.
That's right.
So we're gonna continue to talk about it.
And we ain't going back, by the way. We ain't gonna do it. Moving along, Geraldine Gimblett of Lakeland, Florida, has won a life-changing $2 million top prize from the $2 million bonus cash word scratch-off game. She insisted that a clerk at Pipkin Road Beverage Castle dig a little deeper for one more lottery ticket. Before the big win, Gimblett took a major hit to her finances after clearing out her savings for her daughter's cancer treatment.
Wow.
Now, what do you often say here?
What do I say?
That your giving is.
Oh, your getting is in your giving.
That's right. And
yeah.
she gave the gift of life to her daughter by being able to finance those cancer treatments. And I just love stories like this where really great things happen to people that are doing some good in the world.
Yeah, and for me, a lot of people say, oh, it's just luck. But the way for me you determine is that they're wiping that savings account being wiped out. There was a need there. And sure, it might have took a little luck to win, but I think for me in the heavenlies, the fact that this win spoke directly to a need carries it beyond it just being luck. I think something was orchestrated in the heavenlies for this to happen on her behalf, and I think it's a wonderful thing.
I agree.
Yeah. The celebration of 50 years of hip hop continues with the star-studded lineup of hip hop pioneers at Radio City Music Hall. So this week, DJ Cassidy unveiled the lineup for his popular, I love it, Pass the Mic Live. Now, the DJ decided to bring it back to the birthplace of hip hop. This is all happening July 21st. The one night only event will feature 25 hip hop icons, including Big Daddy Kane, Dougie Fresh, Rakim, and Slick Rick, along with many others. And as someone who's a part of, you know, first, almost second generation hip hop, being 50 plus myself, I'm just so happy that this genre is still here. I'm a little bit perplexed with some of the newer generation in the hip, because I don't understand what they're talking about. I can't understand it. It's just a little different from what I was, you know, born and raised on as far as rap music is concerned. But I can appreciate it from the standpoint that this genre is still happening when they wrote it off so quickly in its infancy. They did not think this thing would be around. They did not like it. They didn't appreciate it. And rap music and hip hop culture is still here.
It's here.
And it dominates.
It's here. It's here. It's here.
Yeah.
And you know what? You know, it is, this has been a great year for hip hop. Remember the Grammy Awards earlier this year and the performances at the Super Bowl? I mean, this 50th anniversary of hip hop, it feels like the 50th anniversary of hip hop tour.
Man.
There's so much happening.
Let me tell you.
But we're here for it.
That's right. Still ahead on Fox Soul's Black Report, Monique is back with a new special and a couple of lawsuits. Oh, man.
We'll tell you all about it and who she's suing when we return. Don't you go anywhere. You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report. Ain't her lawyer busy?
All right, welcome back, Soulmates. Nicole and I. This is what Fridays are made of.
That's right. Let's go.
It is time for our celebrity and entertainment headlines.
That's right. And on Fridays, we like to have a little more fun with these stories. So here to join in on the conversation is the very funny Dannon Green. Welcome to Fox Soul's Black Report, brother.
Hey, Big D.
Man, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, black people, for having a black man on your black show.
Listen here. It is our pleasure. Thanks for the time. All right, D, we're going to ride right into it with these stories. Here's the first one here. Sports journalist Stephen A. Smith. Remember that song, Big Mouth? A Big Mouth back in the day, has come under criticism for his recent comments about former President Trump. During a media event, Smith claimed that Trump is not racist, but is against everything not named Trump. In a recent interview, Smith revealed that before Trump ran for president, he used to enjoy talking to him about sports.
He also added that he does not mess with Trump anymore and would not vote for him because he lacks statesmanship. Dannon, is that all he lacks?
No, he lacks a little bit more than that. You know what I mean? But I have to say this. I met Trump before. I met him before.
Do tell.
And he's it was, I'll tell you about it. It was at a big celebrity event.
Okay.
And when I went to shake his hand, the funny thing about it, because, you know, this is before he was president. Hello, hey, how you doing, Mr. Trump? And he never looked at me. He just shook my hand and looked like, so he was very dismissive of me. I think, you know, but you this is all I can say about that, because I hate to call a person something that I truly don't know. Like, I can tell you a Klansman is totally is. But Trump used to hang with a lot of rappers. Trump hung out with Oprah. He hung out with a lot of people. So maybe that's where Stephen A. Smith is coming from, that angle.
I was going to say, he was in rap videos. He was very much a part, you know, of the hip hop scene, especially in those 90s, early 2000s. You would hear him, you know, pop up in lyrics and, you know, kind of emulated and celebrated by some of our faves. So, you know, he was, at least we welcomed him in the culture for some time before this whole presidency. I remember that, Dannon.
Right. And I think, let me say this. As a comedian, we throw in our jokes and we do our thing, you know, but if we got to be fair, and sometimes as black people, we got to be fair. Before he ran for the presidency, I never heard no one say he was racist. So that's what I think throws a lot of people off. And you got to be honest about that.
Oh, there were tons of people that were calling him racist, because remember, a lot of the real estate that he owned in New York, for example, there were folks that worked for him that alleged there was racial discrimination. There were folks that rented properties that alleged racial discrimination, and so, Trump has quite a rap sheet. Yeah, might I say?
But I think
he does. But go ahead. I'm sorry. You go ahead, sweetie.
The overall thought was that he was cool. He was down. You saw him at parties with other folks of the culture, whether it be hip hop or entertainment. So. I hear what you're saying, but Donald Trump was, back in the day, deemed one of our cool dudes, if you will. At least that's how I remember.
Looks can be deceiving.
You have to remember, I'm 57.
Yeah.
I know I look good, but I'm 57.
Listen here.
So I remember when, from the 80s, when all of the rappers would talk about him, Diddy and them was hanging with him, Mike Tyson and them was hanging with him.
They sure were.
So I do understand what you're saying about the property, but a lot of it, like you said, was allegedly. That doesn't make him a good or bad person. That's not my judgment. That's the Lord's. But I'm just saying that, we have to be fair. We don't have to accept it, but you got to be fair and say, before he ran for the presidency, not too many people had a problem with it. That's all I'm saying, brother.
I'm 52, and I would agree with that. So maybe it's a generational thing, how we've been exposed.
I remember watching him in Home Alone 2, right? I mean, he was everywhere. But I'm just saying, looks can be deceiving.
All right, we're going to move along here. Nearly a year after Monique sued Netflix over discrimination relating to her comedy special, does the special finally debut on the platform?
That's right. The long-awaited comedy special for Monique hit the streaming platform on April 4th, and it's already receiving mixed reviews. This all comes as the actress and comedian sued 2 production companies, claiming that she was not paid royalties from her sitcom, The Parkers.
The lawsuit alleges the defendants were not transparent about the financial success of the show. It also says Monique's production company, as well as the actors, creators, and writers, were underpaid. Monique is seeking monetary damages for an unknown amount. Now, Dan, and there were a lot of social media posts about whether they liked the special, whether they didn't. Have you seen it, and your thoughts on it?
I watched the special.
Yeah.
So let me say this. I'm going to do a Stephen A. Smith. Monique is a very good friend of mine. Okay, I'm going to do like the pre before I do the pre.
Right.
No, Monique is a very good friend of mine. I know her. She's always been nice to me. One of my first tours, when I was on the road, I did her club back in the day in Baltimore.
Right.
In saying that, I felt like the special could have been stronger. I don't think it was her strongest work. And I think for the battle that she had, the battle against Netflix, the battle against getting her money, the battle for people, and a lot of us, black people, saying, well, she ain't worth that. Street code, you ain't supposed to speak for nobody money. But we did it a lot with her. So for what she had to fight for, I would have hoped that the special would have just been a little tighter. I think it was a little, it was here, it was a little bit there. You got to know a little bit more about her, but in a comedy where we like to go a little more in depth. And I think what hurt it, to be truthful, was a lot of people had a problem with the cursing, with the MFs and the N and the N word. And I say it, but when you say it you hear it all the time, a lot of people have issues with it. But you got to remember though, that's Monique.
Yeah.
So you're getting what you paid for.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if
sugarcoat nothing.
Yeah, I don't know if she's still maybe just a little vexed or just has a lot to still get up off her chest or to prove or whatever. So people were saying it was more like messagey than it was like more pure comedy. Yeah. She still has a lot to say. I mean, from her perspective and her point of view, she was done wrong in a lot of different ways, and I still think that that's going to set the precedent for her comedy and what she talks about.
It definitely felt more autobiographical.
Yeah.
Well, actress Halle Berry is responding to haters who had something to say about her most recent Instagram post.
I loved it. Come on, 50-plus soulmates. 56-year-old super duper star Halle Berry just posted this particular pic that you see here on Instagram in her birthday suit. The Oscar winner photographed sipping wine while nude on her balcony. The John Wick Chapter 3 star posting, quote, "I do what I want to do. there was a critique, and she responded saying, "Did you guys know the heart of a shrimp is located in its head?" Whatever that is supposed to be. I'm not mad at Halle Berry. She has been, our number one for a very long time, and she's still looking number one, and she is in love and got her money and her kids, and she's doing her thing. What do you say, D?
Okay.
He had to think about it.
Here you go. Come on, D.
Quiet. You be quiet, man. I see it in your face already, man. Let me be serious on this one, okay? She can do what she wants. That's her body. That's her temple.
Right.
But with so much being done, I think, and as a black man, and I feel us being de-emasculated as men, and people always accusing men of being misogynist, I really have an issue, because if we do make a comment about it, it's people saying, oh, well, she can do that. But if we come out and go, hey, you look good, you got nice, blah, 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 then you're coming off as someone that's not being respectful. And I think as a queen, and she is really a queen, she doesn't have to do that. So you have to always ask yourself, a person at that age, why is she doing it? What kind of attention can Halle Berry not get by just going out in the street in some tight Spandau pants? You tell me.
Yeah.
She could be in a nun's outfit, and somebody could be like, man, Halle Berry.
I'm like, who took the picture? Who angled themselves to be down in the bushes?
Somebody mighty close.
Probably the boyfriend or something.
Well, yes, and that lets you know it was planned, because she had to know, you know what I mean? So she's like, look, I'm gonna be on the balcony about 12:30. I ain't gonna have nothing on. So if you ain't got nothing to do, just shoot up. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, but I would ask you as a woman and a black woman, even though you say you have no problem with it, I think it shows something. I think it gives off the wrong message to our younger people when we're trying to grab our community back to be more respectful to each other and how people perceive us. And I was just wondering, do you guys feel the same about that? Or maybe I'm making too much out of it.
It came off to me more artsy. I didn't really, I didn't even really realize she was naked until I kind of looked. Yeah. So, if you follow Halle Berry, she's very, artsy and very real with the things she posts about. So it didn't jump off my feed like, oh my God, and it just didn't really, bother me. Right now in my life, I got bigger fish to fry. Now, if I felt like I could be nude on my balcony, I'd do it. I just feel like that wouldn't be good for people's feed at this point in my fluffy life. But, big ups to the confidence. And so I just kind of sided that way. But I also hear what you're saying, though.
And I appreciate it was tastefully done.
May I ask you guys a question? I'm sorry, may I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I just want to ask you one question. If that was a man, a Samuel Jackson, a Dave Chappelle, or someone that was a star in Hollywood as a black man, and it would have done that, I wonder would it have been received the same.
Listen,
that's how I look at it.
I'm hoping that it would have.
If it was Jonathan Majors, I think it would be well received.
Depending on, All right, D, we're going to move on here.
He is pretty cut up.
Yeah,
he is pretty cut
Just
up.
saying.
All right, to all of our Starbucks drinking soulmates, need you all to listen up to this. There's a new drink on the menu that some customers say will give you a little bit of the bubble guts.
Yikes. Ooh. Coffee drinkers took to social media to claim their new olive oil-infused drinks are not sitting well in their stomachs. The Olito line of drinks were released in March and include an ice-shaken espresso and a cafe latte. They are infused with Partana cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil. Reviews of the drink appear to be mixed, with other fans calling the Olito weird, but good.
What say you, Danny? This is a mess.
Hey, I say it's good.
Have you had one?
As much hard food as, let me tell you something. Some of the food I eat, I need to get rid of it. So I need to go to Starbucks and go ahead and get pay for my little, laxatives and latex, what do they call it? A laxative, and have a good taste and get a good flow. You know what I mean?
I don't know, olive oil and coffee.
You just got to know that you're paying for that. I mean, if you just go in there having your cold press, hold the bubble guts, right? You know what I mean? I mean, it's. I was at Starbucks maybe about a week ago, and I thought it was strange that Starbucks was selling extra virgin olive oil. I'm like, what is this all about? And then I read about this, and I was like, oh, glad I didn't order that.
Well, people might want to think twice about that one.
Let me tell you something. I'd rather go to Starbucks and get the flavor, because I'm going to tell you, if you ever had McDonald's coffee or 7-Eleven, now you want to get some bubble guts, drink that.
Yeah, all of it is strong to me, but I think for me, Starbucks is the strongest. You add a little olive oil in there, that's a problem. Well, that is a problem.
Dan, and thank you for that public service announcement.
Yes, and thank you so much for joining us. You definitely have to make your way back around to the Black Report. We're going to baptize you an official soulmate at this point. Before we let you go, you're on the road, you telling jokes somewhere, you're uplifting us, encouraging us. Share with us real quick what's happening with you.
Well, I got a lot going on. First of all, I really appreciate y'all having me. Yeah, that's my reel right there. I've done all type of television shows. I was on the TV show Everybody Hates Chris. I did Real Husbands of Hollywood with Kevin Hart. So most people, I've never really been a road comic because I wanted to wait. So the country knows me from like Comic View, but they mostly know me from some of my acting gigs. So recently, I just produced a documentary film called The Executioners. This is when I did Everybody Hates Chris. That I had out on Tubi, but now we're looking for a home because we did another version of it.
Yeah.
But I'm also a writer. So I have a screenplay that I've written that we're working on getting finance for it now. So I'm a writer, I'm a screenwriter. I just did the presentation pilot for Naeem. And if you don't know who Naeem is, Naeem Lynn is one of the Plastic Cup Boys for Kevin Hart's crew. And he just did his own pilot and television show he's producing, and I just shot a part in that. So I'm very busy.
Yeah, you are.
The country just hasn't seen me. The country just hasn't seen me tour worldwide because I tour, but just spots. Like I just came back from Japan and Korea performing for the troops. And big ups to all the troops that support us, because I really, really respect the troops.
Very nice. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us today. We definitely got to have you back, my Divine Nine brother.
I'd love to come back.
Absolutely, but make sure you don't have that Ohio State pillow in the background there. You need to move that from the frame. That's in frame. You're talking to a Michigan State Spartan, and so there's a problem there.
Oh no, I'm good with y'all.
So okay,
I'm
right.
And a USC Trojan.
Down the street, I don't like.
Oh, you don't like Michigan? Okay, so we're together. We're together.
Yeah. If you were single, we could get married. But
I know that's right.
Michigan, I wouldn't look at it.
Dan, and thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you. Travel safe and blessings on top of blessings with all of your projects now and upcoming. My Divine Nine brother. Roo. All right, honey. Love you, darling.
Coming up on FOXSOUL's Black Report, it's our favorite segment of the show.
You know
Black
what it is.
Excellence.
You know what it is. And today we're talking Michael B. Jordan and his new accomplishment, along with some others on that new list that's happening this week. When we return, we'll talk all about it. You're watching FOXSOUL's Black Report.
Welcome back to FOXSOUL's Black Report. Well, a Chicago high school senior has been accepted to six Ivy League schools along with Morehouse College. Peyton Pitts says he's ready for the future and to start his collegiate experience.
Peyton was accepted into Princeton, Harvard, Yale, Penn, Columbia, and Cornell. His mother, Adrienne, says her son has been driven to succeed as a straight-A student, an exceptional basketball player, and he's a violinist. Peyton also brought back the Black Student Union to Francis Parker School, which is a predominantly white school.
That's right. He hasn't made a final decision yet, but plans to visit some of the campuses after spring break and will then make his decision. He wants to major in finance or business.
And right here,
we love to hear.
I know he looks like he can get a basketball scholarship. He looks like he got some handle on him and some hops. But congratulations to him. That is amazing.
That's terrific. That's terrific. That he's also committed to community, right? Because he started the Black Student Union
and
at his school.
Activism, yeah.
Right? I mean, he seems like an all-around Renaissance man in the making.
He does. He's a big deal. And speaking of a big deal, it's a big deal when any director's debut movie sells $100 million worth of tickets in its first week.
That's right. It's an even bigger deal when that director is also the star of Creed 3 and Michael B. Jordan, who's made Time's 100 Most Influential People of 2023 list after being nominated by Black Panther director and fellow Bay Area native Ryan Coogler. Every year, Time chooses the most impactful figures to highlight in the artists, icons, pioneers, leaders, titans, and innovators categories. Other notables who made the list this year include Angela Bassett, Doja Cat, Gina Prince, Bythewood, by the way, and Doja Cat.
Yeah.
Did I mention Doja Cat?
We mentioned Doja Cat. All right. Also making this year's list are athletes Brittany Griner and Patrick Mahomes, super duper QB in the NFL. There's a list of 100 and it's broken down in like innovators, icons, like who's got next.
That's right.
Type of a category. And there were a lot of wonderful folks of color who made different lists as a part of the list.
Yeah.
Top 100.
And shout out to friend and fellow journalist Amara Jones from Tranlash Media. She also made the Time 100 list.
Yeah. Is there anybody who you thought was left out? You thought?
I mean, if they didn't make this list, they made another list, and so I never think of people sort of, being left out. But, I thought it was a pretty good list.
Yeah, I think Time does a good job with making sure they surf, far and wide to find a nice, diverse group for their listing, their yearly listing.
It seemed fairly intergenerational, but it leaned towards, sort of the younger faces, and so, happy to see it.
Yeah. Listen here, for a full rundown on stories like this and more, make sure you access FOXSOUL's video on demand and our partners, and you can also download that FOXSOUL app for absolutely free. It's been a pleasure. Have a great weekend. I'm Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Nicordelai Corte. Until next time, stay lifted.
And stay safe.